What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering, and definitely under the weather today. I don't know what happened. I just got hit like a freight train yesterday at 4, and I'm basically just waking up. But there's always work to do, and I feel like I can muster a little bit of work here. There's a new law proposed that essentially bans wokeism, particularly in schools, but it'll be interesting. Is this performative, or is this more a part of a grander thing? Because of course it's being introduced by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, and Ron, I believe, is probably angling to be a presidential candidate. But here's the article. In a powerful indictment of CRT, the CRT ideology being foisted on public schools and corporations across the nation on Wednesday, Florida GOP Governor Ron DeSantis introduced the Stop Woke Act, stating no taxpayer dollars should be used to teach our kids to hate our country or to hate each other. Look, this is an interesting angle here. I want to stop short of, I don't think that's what this is, but I do want to be careful about, getting too patriotic and not be teaching, the mistakes that our country has made. But I don't think that's what this is. Of course, that could be a next level. There's a lot of school programs. This is why I'm a huge proponent of cameras in every classroom for parents. I think that we really saw a lot of the insidious stuff that was going on in the school systems thanks to Zoom. If not for Zoom learning, if not for the shutdowns, parents wouldn't have known that their kids are being taught all sorts of insane things. Being taught that they have this original sin of whiteness that they can't possibly overcome, but they should, live their life apologizing for some immutable characteristic that they were born with and had no choice in. DeSantis explains that the proposed legislation would give parents a private right of action to be able to enforce the prohibition of CRT and they get to recover attorney's fees, adding that a lot of times these people will fear lawsuits more than a fine from the State Department of Education, because when you do a lawsuit, you get discovery, meaning you get to dig around and see exactly what they're all up to. Now, I think there is a distinction here that I've always held true, that I've always felt, and I want to point it out here too. You want to teach this garbage in a private school? Totally fine. 100% fine with that. When you start talking about using our public funds to have coloreds only playground time, which is what we saw, I think, a middle school or elementary school in Colorado have a sign. No, you don't get to spend my tax dollars on that. And you want to send your kid to some private school that teaches them to hate themselves, then that's your prerogative. But once you start spending the public's money on it, I wouldn't. I don't like that. I don't think most people do. Along the same lines is this idiocy that biological males should be able to compete against biological females in collegiate sports, in high school sports, simply because they don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. This stuff is just ridiculous. This is going way too far the other direction. I'm all for being inclusive, but let's have some logic. DeSantis began by asserting, I think it's important to say what are we doing positively in terms of what we want to be in our schools. I think we've done more than any other state to place a renewed emphasis on American civics, teaching kids about the Constitution and what it means to be an American. And we've been able to get the requirement back into the high schools, which is very important. We have the ability, and we'll be doing exams when people leave school, which will be like a citizenship exam that naturalized citizens have to take at the end of the day, because everybody that comes through our school system, some of them will go to a variety of different fields, but everyone's still going to be an American citizen. I actually don't hate this. I don't. If immigrants have to take these tests, I would think that a high schooler should be able to pass them too. Again, I don't want to get into this. I worry a little bit about getting into this like propaganda stuff. But as long as it's like actual teaching about the country and the Constitution, I know very little about the Constitution. I was taught nothing about it in school, and I have a master's degree. So I feel like, that's a pretty big missing curriculum piece. Also, if you look at, why aren't we teaching our kids how to, write a check, balance their checking accounts, arming our kids with good information about finances before they accept a $50,000 a year student loan when they only need $20,000 because they're taught that it's like free money. We saw this week a lot of people, trending how Biden wouldn't back student loan forgiveness, as if anybody thought he would, because student loans are a part of it. The government needs that money, and it creates this like long-term passive income for them. They're never going to forgive that. Are you joking? You're delusional if you thought they were ever going to forgive that. So, I mean, maybe we should, our kids should know a little bit more about making good financial decisions by the time they're in high school. Because if we're going to give these kids $200,000 in student loans at the age of 18, then we should probably be giving them, the tools to understand that maybe if you only need $70,000, that's how much you should take. So you don't, spend your 30s and 40s crying about having crippling college debt. And make no mistake about it, I did it. When I was doing my master's degree, I think the tuition was $8,000 a semester. Yeah, I think $8,000 a semester. And I would get $16,000 a semester in student aid. Now, I should have just taken the 8. But I was like, well, I could use this money for this, that, or the other thing, so I'd take it. And then in my 30s, I'm carrying an extra $50K in student loan debts that I didn't need, that I should have tightened my belt when I was younger. I should have understood. Having a $600-700 student loan payment is the real deal. I worked 2 jobs until I paid off my student loans. Quote, we have also been able to help teachers. We just launched, and it's going to come into effect this year, the civics training program, where if you go through it, it really gets you deep knowledge and understanding of the fundamentals. Plus, you get a $3,000 bonus. Great. So we want our students to understand, why was our country founded? I think what you see now is, with this rise in woke ideology, is an attempt to really delegitimize our history and delegitimize our institutions, he declared. I view the wokeness as a form of cultural Marxism. They really want to tear at the fabric of our society and our culture and things that we've taken for granted, like the ability of parents to direct the upbringing of their kids. So this is really, really significant. And when you look at these things throughout the country, where they take down a Thomas Jefferson statue in New York City, or they take down an Abraham Lincoln statue in Massachusetts, or they take down George Washington's name off schools in California, that's an attempt to erase history. Yes, I agree, 100%. They want to delegitimize the founding of this country and the institutions, and they basically want to replace it with a very militant form of leftism that would absolutely destroy this country if it ever took hold. And so we have the responsibility to stand for truth. Today we are going to be introducing to the public, and we have the legislators who are going to help us with this, a new piece of legislation for the upcoming legislative session called Stop Wrongs Against Our Kids and Employees Act, the Stop Woke Act, DeSantis announced, and this will do a number of things that are very important. One, it will put into the statute, Florida, the prohibition of CRT in K through 12. No taxpayer dollars should be used to teach our kids to hate their country or to hate each other. Good, I agree. And that's important, and it's all well and good, but I think we've seen recently, if you can legislate things like Parents' Bill of Rights, you can have certain things, and sometimes the school districts always follow it. And so we're going to be including in the legislation giving parents a private right of action to be able to enforce the prohibition of CRT, and they get to recover attorney's fees, meaning now they can sue these schools. He slammed CRT advocates, saying, we also need to understand that this has become a cottage industry, CRT. There's people making huge amounts of money. That's correct. They basically would get tens of thousands of dollars to go in and do a training, sometimes at schools or businesses, basically saying, pay me $50K so I can teach your employees how racist capitalism is. And I'm thinking to myself, well, you're actually certainly charging a king's ransom to do that. You don't complain about capitalism when you're lining your own pockets. He concluded, our legislation will defund any money for K through 12 higher education going to CRT consultants. Good. Of course, Twitter's absolutely losing its mind over it. And, I think it's, obviously it's a little spicy. It's a little hyped up, kind of for the right. It's the opposite side of the coin to CRT, but the CRT stuff is already taking hold. So I think the sooner you can ban it, the sooner you can give parents the ability to push back against it, the better for our students, and the better for, me, somebody who doesn't have kids but pays an exorbitant amount of tax dollars. I'd prefer that they don't be used to teach kids to hate each other. Hope you enjoyed this video. Best of luck on this law. We'll talk to you again real soon.